What up, though?
Welcome to Woman Crush
Every day,
where we discuss queer media, especially when it is
Black
and especially when it is woman. I'm your host, Tang B, aka Sean B. Scribe.
And I'm your host, Allison, aka Al Wu.
And today we are going to discuss A Pause with Sam J, Season 2, Episode 1. But first,
subscribe. This is what we do. We deliver weekly conversations about representations of black women, queer black women in media. So if you're into that, if you want to learn more, come to the source. Tap in with the tribe. You feel me?
Absolutely. So let's talk about A Pause with Sam J. This is the second season. So this show is on HBO.
Yes.
If you have not seen Stand Up by Sam J, she is a stand-up comedian. She is black. She is gay. She is also having a show on HBO.
Yeah. The stand-up that we originally saw was on Netflix. And I believe that her special is still on Netflix.
Yeah.
So, go ahead and watch that because it's funny.
Yes.
And boom.
And so you understand the show. It's a little bit of commentary. It's a little bit of conversation. So you get kind of thrown into the midst of a party where general conversation is happening and we can kind of hop conversation to conversation. All of them, usually including Sam J. Sometimes she will interview people who are a part of certain political movements or organizations, social issues, and then there are sometimes skits and sketches as well. So
yeah, definitely an interesting show. And to have a black, masculine, lesbian creator, producer at the forefront just gives me all the warm fuzzies. So I don't even, it's funny because I don't know that Sam J wants to hear that because I don't think Sam J wants to hear that
based on some of the things
coming
in
from
the
me at all. But I'm still going to say, I don't mean it in that kind of way. I mean it in like, I'm just happy that this content exists.
I think she wants to hear that.
That's what I meant. You know what I'm saying? That's what I meant.
So with that, let's get into favorite moments, favorite scenes from the episode.
So, this show is really interesting in that it is all of this stuff going on. That it's like commentary, conversation, sketches. Okay,
Yeah.
So there's so many like little things to pull from a bunch of moments. In this particular episode, I think my favorite moment though had to go to the interview session that she did with these stud for stud relationships.
Oh yeah.
I think that's just an interesting world, and I kind of like. I wasn't crazy about her conversation on it in terms of like being homophobic towards stud for stud
I don't really get that. I don't get why that's necessary.
But I do love the fact that Sam J will lean in and say, all right, well, let's bring in these studs and let's talk to them. And that's why I appreciate the fact that we're in a season 2, because if you didn't watch season 1, there's a lot of seeing studs in our natural habitat per se, you know what I mean? And I think, and I don't necessarily say that I see myself as stud, but I know that I'm like seen as stud in a lot of ways. So I'm like, I own it, whatever. But, yeah, I really do appreciate seeing studs talking. And in this episode, we talked about these studs like being pregnant and I'm just like, this is,
and being in romantic relationship together.
Give a light to this. Shine a light on this. Let's talk about it. And these folks were just so beautiful and confident and like so secure in their relationships, and that was just a really beautiful thing. That was my favorite moment of this episode.
Okay, dope.
I know that was a whole lot.
No, that was great. But I really liked that moment as well. I was surprised that I liked it because I was like, aren't we done with the stud for stud convo? Like, we're not over it?
No, hell no.
And we're not, apparently.
No,
and so to have, studs actually, who are for studs, romantically talk about it. And they didn't even really get to dive in. I actually want to know, like, all the unedited stuff, so release that full conversation. But that was fun and intriguing and funny, and their whole conversation about porn and who was into what kind of porn was really interesting. Yeah. My favorite moment, I think it was at the beginning with the question. I think I love the question even more than kind of where the conversation went of, do you warn your straight friends before you take them into queer spaces? And to me, that's like this question of like, how much cultural competency do you need to give them? You know, are they going to see stuff as weird? Is there stuff that you think is weird that you're uncomfortable with maybe being roped into your identity or what they think you're a part of? And just all of this stuff where it's just like, okay, we all identify as queer, gay, or bisexual, or lesbian, or trans, or whatever category you're in. But then when you get in the space, it's like, yo, my version of this is not what is about to be on display. Or my version of this is what's about to be on display, but you have been so much in hetero land, you're not even ready for what I'm about to show you. And I don't want you to be shocked by it. I don't want you to offend people by you being shocked by it. Or I want to give you a heads up so that you can start to get in the mindset of being open-minded and learning something new. So I really appreciated just the posing of so many questions in the episode where it's like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter where people landed on their thoughts on the questions. It matters a lot. But just having the space to have the conversation, I think, is more and more important. And it was dope. It was dope.
Dope. Yeah, I want to get into those conversations. But I mean, like, I think that's why I'm really excited about talking about this show as a series, in that there are so many talking points that we can get into. Yeah. And specifically around blackness and queerness. You know, there was a moment when Sam talked about identifying as black or queer first, which I thought was, I think that's something that a lot of black queer folk think about at some point, like what is first to me. So yeah, I'm not going to necessarily go off into that right now, but that's just one of the examples of the questions that you know, Sam goes into on the show, and to hear and invites other voices, you know, where it's not necessarily where we're just listening to Sam sounding off, but different perspectives. Really interesting stuff. So, second question, woman crush. Who was your woman crush in this episode?
Who was my woman crush? I think the pregnant stud. Yeah, because, well, she was not pregnant on the show. She previously was pregnant and went viral, but I think she was so ready to answer questions, be unashamed of what she was into, be unashamed of like the different identities she can hold at once, and still be confidently stud or masculine of center, or kind of wherever she falls within that spectrum. And that's really dope. That's really dope. I want to see more people who are confident enough that it makes space for other people.
Well, you took mine. But I'm gonna shout out. Her name was Nay McCollop, I believe.
She always comes through with the names.
You know, I be doing the name thing. Yes. So shout out Nay McCollop for being a stud and being pregnant. You know, watching this episode, it made me go to Instagram to just see what's happening on #pregnant_stud. Yeah. And honestly, yo, it's abysmal, man. Like, I'm actually very hurt by like what is happening in the pregnant stud category, because I thought, and maybe I spelled pregnant wrong. Okay, not because I can't spell pregnant, but just because, you know, I'm like, why were there so few photos? I don't really know. So I'm like, let me actually go back and make sure, you know, to double check. But I still was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in pregnant stud. Yeah. And like, there just aren't a lot. And then for the ones that were there was so much negative commentary. Like, dudes who were sharing this picture like sneak dicking, you know what I mean? Or who is fucking these studs, you know, type of shit. And I'm just like, oh wow, this is really, really sad, because I feel like, you know, we surround ourselves with very affirming people, queer positive people So sometimes like that, the blinders are up, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for
the hatred can be shocking.
So that almost makes me want to just, I mean, I double down on my crush for Name McCollum and knowing like, yo, people like are professional haters in this world.
Yeah.
And it's whack as hell. And yet we live, we give, you know, studs are having babies and giving to the world and producing citizens. And it's a beautiful thing. So, yeah.
Shout out to all the studs having babies, you know, whether you decide that you can borrow some time and sperm from a dude, or if you decide that you can invest in IVF because it's expensive.
Come on.
AF. Maybe that's why it's not that many pregnant studs on Instagram, is because it's a hefty cost.
Oh my gosh. And that should be its own episode in talking about just like what it means to get pregnant.
We should come back to that with Master of None.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't watched the Master of None season 3.
Yeah, season 3.
It's all about IVF well, it's not all about that, but part of the storyline goes into IVF treatment for this lesbian woman, and you learn a lot.
People. You learn a lot. TV does teach you things. So watch TV, kids.
Watch TV. Back to TV. Right. What can stay? What can go for a pause with Sam J? What you like? Pause. Actually
pause. Okay, so I kind of already just went into a little bit of the Sam J's feelings on stud for stud relationships and how she's homophobic against those.
Pause.
You know, a part of me is like, okay, that is a way to connect with, and I don't know how intentional it is. I think it's just Sam living her truth. I don't know that it's like, this is my ulterior motive for saying whatever, but like, I think the candor that Sam expresses does relate with a lot of people who identify as being a quote unquote real nigga.
That is so true. I love how you said that, because there are so many people who, if they're like, oh, I feel that way. Yeah. And you just said you feel that way, and that's a way I know I'm not supposed to feel. Yeah. So now I trust you to take me on this whatever journey we're going to go on.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I have complicated feelings around that, but then I'm also like, that is an opportunity to be vulnerable and just express how you feel and how you see the world, you know? So I'm not going to sit here and police Sam's feelings, but I guess I'm just like, I don't know, that didn't hit me. You know, that doesn't hit me as something that I feel like, yeah, and I don't want to see stud for stud. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, isn't half the gay mantra love is love? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, love is love, dog. I don't need to police what y'all doing. I really don't care what you're doing. Yeah. And I would like to see more studs as friends and lovers, you know. And also I feel like studs are the main ones who can actually challenge who is the man in a relationship. Like, stud for stud relationships, we need more of those. Yeah, you know, because I'm tired of hearing who's the man in this relationship.
There are no men. Ass question. There are no men. It's 2 women in these relationships,
and that's just what it is.
Period.
So I think, I don't know, I give it that to stay in and could go, and I'm gonna hang it up.
There was a way to function.
Yeah.
The go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Some of these antiquated ideas just around sexuality and really presentation of femininity versus masculinity and what that means as far as who people want to be with. But I'm also like, I came up in a different time of what being gay meant before people even said queer. And it's taken me time to catch up with where the youth are pushing the culture, where, you know, the people before me have wanted the culture to go. So I can definitely understand not always being like, okay, well, where the masses are going, I'm there with them, and having realness about it. So that's definitely dope. I agree. That can stay. What else can stay? I like confronting these ideas, these questions. We need these questions. Mm-hmm. I think one thing that I want to go is giving gay culture to white people. I get the point. I get that there is a lot of whiteness going on. I get that there are a lot of white people who are sometimes involved politically and as far as the law goes and whatnot in these social organizations, and they can sometimes push agendas that tend to benefit some of their platforms and goals more. But I think to just be like, the gay agenda is white people, I'm not willing to give that to them, because there's so much evidence that is against that. That there are black and brown queer people who are leading movements, who are leading agendas, who are leading black movements. Mm-hmm. Like, queer people are at the head of black movements right now. And that is really important. So I can't separate blackness from queerness, because I am all of that at the same time, all the time. And there are points in black community where I feel like I am under attack, or I am not welcome, or I am meant to be erased, or I am not important enough to talk about. And you can talk about all the blackness of me, but if you won't incorporate my womanness, my queerness, my urbanness, if you're not going to incorporate all of that, you're still not talking to me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're still willing to cut off sections of me. So, I appreciate the questions. I want those to stay. I like Kid Ken, so I was happy to see a performance from Kid Ken. And I do like the challenging of, is the unfavorable, whatever people consider to be the unfavorable side of blackness welcome, where it is more hood, more ratchet, more ghetto fabulous. And I do think that does need to be more welcome. But I also think it is up to you to say, like, I'm going to be in my local and state pride parades. I'm going to be, I'm going to register a float. I'm going to get my people together. We going to get matching t-shirts and glow sticks, and we going to march and come up with a routine and dance and throw beads or whatever we're going to do. And we're going to make a point to show who we are. We're going to make a point to get a table. We're going to make a point to be a part of it and bring people out who really love us. And that's not to say that black people and queer people have to do all the work, but who gonna represent us but us?
Yeah.
If white people curated a twerk float, no, I don't want white people curating a twerk float to represent
white people. Cannot
the ghetto black people. No,
they cannot.
I don't want that. Okay,
they cannot.
I'm speaking from McNichols and 7 Mile.
Not
and
so you
Greenfield.
can Miley
I don't
Cyrus
want y'all doing that.
No, negative.
So yeah.
No. That's so real. And I think, as you were speaking to that last point, it made me think about what are those barriers that are keeping, quote unquote, gay hood niggas from participating in pride. And I think one of the things that came to mind was just not having pride.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to show up, go there and do all that stuff, because then you're like celebrating being gay.
Talk about
in a way that I think a lot of people aren't unpacked and aren't ready to celebrate who they are and be proud of who they are. It's just like, well, if I suck dick, I suck dick. That doesn't mean
nobody's business.
Yeah.
Nobody has to know about that. And I'm not about to tell Grammy and all of that.
Yeah. But it's like, it's not about whether or not you suck dick or whatever you suck. You know what I mean? It's the representation. It's like, what you were saying, if you don't show up, if you're not there to write the story, then the story just isn't written and you don't exist. So it's like, if that makes it white people shit, I think for nigga sectionality to happen, which is what Sam J talks about in this episode. I did not make this up. But for niggas to feel represented in this web of intersectionality and what that means that, like, niggas gotta do it. Just full stop. Because we don't want anybody else to do it. We don't want anybody else to appropriate it. And I feel like that's kind of leading me into the queer canon and where does this particular episode fit and things like that. Nigga sectionality as a concept. Yeah. I think sometimes it's kind of like weird for me the way that Sam does it, but then I also feel like it's so beautiful the way that it's done. So like the last scene of this whole episode is Sam J's, what is it called? Naked niggasectionality basketball tournament and slapbox contest. Like,
which contains all dudes. All cis dudes, my dear.
So, yeah, it's literally, I think this is 5-on-5 basketball with dudes, gay dudes, running around naked as hell, playing basketball for the next, like, the last 15 minutes of this episode. Dudes slap boxing on the side. I mean, like, really getting it in. And I'm just like, this is hilarious. Like, this is, I don't know what future we're building right here, but I do feel like I am so happy to see this and be part of this gay black future. Like, it's happening now.
I didn't feel that way. It was too much dick for me.
It was a lot of dick. It wasn't the dick for me, but it was the like.
I did like the final performance. You know.
You know what? If it had been a stud basketball tournament,
I would have been all there. Matter of fact, if y'all would have brought the topless studs back from season 1,
oh
I'd
my gosh,
like, let's
5-on-5.
Let's go.
I was gonna say sign me up, but that's a lie. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I don't know. Gay futurism, I feel like this is where Sam J is all about it, and blah. So that's where I'm at with queer canon. I'm gonna leave it there.
Okay.
Where does this fit for you?
You know, this is interesting because I feel like this is a really intersectional part of the queer canon where, so the fact that she has people talking at this gathering that she's curated of people and they're at her residence or frequented Airbnb or whatever it is, and they're talking, and it's all kind of people. It's straight people, it's gay people, I assume cis people, maybe there are some like gender non-conforming people there, and there are straight dudes there who feel comfortable enough with Sam J to say what their feelings are, their fears are, their misunderstandings are, their, standards are, whatever it is. And it makes this space for dismantling misconceptions. It makes this space for sometimes identifying with each other's discomforts. And I think it's a really interesting space for a show because it's 22 minutes. It's a pretty...
Yeah, somewhere between standard, a little less than 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, pretty standard, show. You don't get that much, and we go a lot of different places, but it feels like, we really got to move around this topic and see kind of like what the temperature is for queer people, for straight people, for black people, from whoever else might be in the room. So for that, I think it's a really important piece of the queer canon to be able to welcome in others who may not participate in this conversation otherwise.
Yes, I agree with that. A part of me felt like they got a little too much shine in ways like, I don't want to hear your hate spew.
Yeah.
But I do agree that it does say a lot to be able to have the different voices present in the room. One of the other things that she brought up about the, do you feel like there's a gay agenda in Hollywood? Yeah. Do you feel like there's a gay agenda in Hollywood?
Yes and no. And let me say I'm for the agenda. I think there is an agenda to put more people at the forefront as characters who represent who the youth are today because they want youth to watch. So if youth are saying, we support LGBTQ people, we are LGBTQ, and we are figuring out who we are, they're going to show those characters. And I think that's really important. I think also it's undeniable at this point that there are a lot of people who have been queer in history who, now that they're getting their time, their, biopics or whatever, their full lives are being examined because that brings in more viewers. The more you can show a person's intersectional, the bigger audience you're gonna get. Yeah. So I think the agenda is to make money by giving things that your audience wants to see. Mm-hmm. And I'm not mad at that. That's why we here doing this show.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And we hope that you enjoyed the time that we got to spend together today. That felt very like Mr. Rogers to me.
It was very Mr. Rogers. I was like, our shoes are at the door. Our socks are still clean because the floor was vacuumed. Yeah. And like, we're gonna go home and be nice.
Do, do, do. I don't know the song. I wish I knew the song and the jacket.
Would
whatever.
You be my neighbor?
Perfect. Yo, well, until next week, stay up. When check in with us next week, we're going to be watching the whole season of Pause with Sam J. Yes. So really, really excited to dig into this. First season was a lot of fun. They tackled a whole bunch of subjects. So yeah,
let us know what y'all think. And absolutely. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace.